Last week was a good week. Spring Fling. If you had anything to do with the entire Spring Fling Green and Gold Review, I want to invite you to stand up. I just want to take a look at who was involved in that. Stand up if you had anything to do with it. Okay, look around. See, that's great. Is there some people? We have volunteers that aren't standing. All right, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. All right, good. Look around. All right, thanks. You can have a seat. Yeah, little that's okay. I did that just because I wanted to see how many from our church family are involved in other activities that help the community, that serve in some way. And I think that's a great thing to do, and serving in that regard. And so thank you for doing that. There's always places to serve, yeah. But it was a good week. Spring Fling is over. I can mark that off the calendar now. Right, honey? That's another one down. Now Mother and Others is next, and then we have a memorial service, and we have baccalaureate. A memorial service, then baccalaureate, right? And just a few more things to mark off the list. But it's good, yeah. And it snowed last week, huh? Surprised? Yeah? No, not surprised. You know, it reminds me of a story of a lady who lived in Marquette. The names have been changed to protect the innocent. Okay. This story is not true, but it's making it sound true. A lady in Marquette was on her way to Wisconsin, and she's driving, and it's just it's a blizzard. It is snowing hard, and she's just, having really a struggle with the weather and seeing, and she comes across a plow truck, and she thinks, I'll stay right behind this plow truck. At least you can see the lights, and it'll take me, be good. Maybe I can get out of this snow. Anybody ever done that? Stay behind the truck? Yeah, that's kind of a good thing to do sometimes. And especially passing the truck on those times is really not a good idea. Anyway, so she stays behind the plow truck for quite a while, and of course, how the wash from the plow truck even makes it hard, but she stayed behind there, and she followed that truck. Finally, after a while, the plow truck, the driver of the plow truck stopped. He got out, and he went back to the lady. He said, "Lady, where are you going?" And she says, "Well, I'm on my way to Superior, Wisconsin." The truck driver said, "Well, you're not going to get there following me. I'm plowing the parking lot." Oops. Can you just take a moment and just see it in your mind? Well, since the beginning of the year, we have been following Jesus. We've been following him through stories, starting at the beginning of the year up to 6 weeks ago when we took on the Son of God series. Finished it up last week. Easter Sunday celebration, things are really great. That's really stoked, and I enjoy that. And we've been looking at the life, the ministry, the major events even that show the work and the ministry that Jesus had here on earth. And there's a truth that came out of that and that we've seen, and I hope you picked up. And that truth is that about Jesus is that when he came into this world, he came with a mission. He was on a mission from God. Daryl got that one. Okay, Blues Brothers. Okay. Anyway, but he was on a mission from God, and his mission is to seek those who were lost. That never changed. And so we're following Jesus in the story this year so far, and we studied the life of Jesus in history. It lays a foundation for a great question. And the question is this morning, after coming all through that, coming through the Son of God, coming through Easter, coming all through that, it lays a great question for us, that is to consider the all-important issue of our own relationship with Jesus. So often we're concerned about somebody else's relationship. What about yours? That's one to consider. Over the course of time that we've been studying Jesus, we've had opportunity for people to say yes to Jesus, to say yes as Savior and Lord, and maybe some of you did that I don't know about. Maybe some of you didn't do that as a first-time commitment. Maybe some of you went home. You said, "You know what? I need to amp it up just a little bit here. I've been said yes to Jesus, but I just haven't been the follower I need to be. I haven't been the disciple I need to be. I need to amp that up. And I hope that's true. I hope, as a pastor, my hope is that you never walk away from here unchanged in some way. I don't care if it's little, big. In some way, when the church comes together and we sing together, we give praise to God, that something is changed, because we're always trying to come to the fullness of the stature of the man, the Bible tells us, to become more and more and more like Jesus all the time. Now, granted, we're not going to get there here on this ball of mud, right? It's not going to happen here on this side of heaven. But one day we will get there. But until that day, we're still striving to become more and more like Jesus. And so that's my prayer, is always that some of you have made a change in some way in your heart, in your life, in your attitude, in your actions, and whatever, that we do that. So today, we come to this proverbial fork in the road, and understanding that now it's your turn. It's your turn. So the question for us, what have I done with Jesus on a personal level? It's really easy to think about for somebody else, okay? What have you done and what have I done with him on a personal level? Have we taken him into our life to be both Savior and Lord? Is he a part of our everyday, every way of life? Is he, when we're working and serving the school, the Spring Fling, is he part of that? Or do we kind of put him in the box? Or we kind of say, well, this is this part of me. Because he wants to be part of everything. How many know that? He wants to be part of every fabric of our lives. He wants to be in everything we do. Whether or not you're saying it verbally, are you showing it by your actions, by your reactions? What is he wants to be part of that. And so that's a question for all of us. We heard the scripture reading that Jake gave. We heard that Jesus came before Pilate, and Pilate goes before the people. And Pilate faced the question of decision about Jesus. What are you going to do about Jesus? What are you going to do with this guy? Pilate wants to stay neutral. Did you catch that? He doesn't want to. He washed his hands. It's not on me. Okay, you guys make the decision. I don't want to make this decision. And he wanted to stay neutral, but Pilate found out you can't stay neutral. There's no neutral ground on this. I think it's interesting in that whole account is Pilate said, well, okay, I'm washing my hands on that. And the people say the blood will be on our heads and on our children's. We're talking generational curses happening here. I can't imagine saying, it's my fault and I want that whole condemnation, that whole consequences of my actions to go to my children. I love my children way too much to do that. So I just don't understand the hatred those people had to do that, to say, yeah, I'll suffer the consequences for this decision, but I want my kids to suffer for it too. That's basically what they're saying. That is just unbelievable. Just amazing that they would do that. So anyway, Pilate had a decision that he couldn't put off. And that's how it is with you and me. There are decisions about Jesus that you and I can't put off. To not decide for Jesus in the first place is to reject him. To put off the question is also to reject him. The question that Pilate asked was a pretty big question. And what do you want to do with Jesus? But there's some other questions that springboard off this. Like the first one that comes to my mind is, where you have to start with is, okay, first of all, who is Jesus? The Bible is bold enough to proclaim and say that how important it is that you and I make a decision, the right decision about Jesus. If that's true, then I have to believe we have the right to ask questions. Sometimes people say, no, we shouldn't question. No. We have the right to ask questions. That's okay to ask questions. We have the right to ask questions about Jesus. Who was he? Was he about his character, about his nature? Was he just a teacher? Was he just another preacher? Just another really nice guy, as some people try to say? Yeah, he was a nice prophet. Or was he more? Well, I say this. As you read history, secular history, biblical history, you find that Jesus was a lot more than just an ordinary human being. Secular history will bear that out as well as biblical history. When Ralph Waldo Emerson finished his lecture series and his book called Representative Men, which included 6 men that he felt were people of history that were important to history. The men included Plato, the philosopher, included Emanuel Swedenborg, the mystic. It included Michel de Montaigne, the skeptic, William Shakespeare, the poet, Napoleon, the man of the world, as he classified them, and Johann Wolfgang von Goethe, the writer. Someone asked Emerson after he finished this work, he said, "Why didn't you include Jesus in those people?" Here's Emerson's quote. He said, "It would require too much strength of constitution to put Jesus in the same category with ordinary human beings." Why didn't you include Jesus? Again, it would require too much strength of constitution to put Jesus Christ in the same category with ordinary human beings. All of history has proved that Jesus was more than just a mere human being. He was more than you or I, that's for sure. All of us who know Jesus, who have said yes to Jesus, that we know him as the forgiver of sins. We also know that even though he was a great teacher, he was a great preacher, he was a lot more. You remember that Jesus, understand that Jesus can only be really understood by people who have taken him into their hearts. Only people who have a relationship can really understand Jesus. I mean, after Jesus' resurrection, he appears in the upper room to the disciples. Tommy's not there. So when Tommy comes back, Thomas, I doubt you forget this. Some of you will get that later. Okay. Yeah, Bill's chuckling back there. But later on, the next time he comes, when Thomas is there, because Thomas initially said, no. I don't want your version of Jesus. I don't want your version of the story. I want my own. Don't we want that? I want my own experience. I want to see him for myself. I want that. I appreciate what you've done, but I want my experience. I want to put my fingers in the holes of his hand. I want to touch his side, his feet. So Jesus shows up like he does. And when Thomas realized it was Jesus, when Thomas had the revelation of Jesus, when Thomas had the understanding that it was the Christ, what did he say? He said, "My Lord and my God." Only people who have a realization of Jesus and understanding of Jesus as the Christ can proclaim this and can understand this. So this man who demands a decision from us isn't just a peasant from a small town in Galilee. He's the one who proved to the world during his time and during our time that only he and no one else, nothing else, only he is worthy of our full allegiance, and alone is the Lord of both death and life. No one else, nothing else. So the next question takes me to, well, what can you do with Jesus? What do you do with Jesus? There's only 2 possibilities, really. First, he can be accepted. We can say, yes, I want Jesus to be my Savior and Lord of my life. Take him into our hearts, and then we can admit that we are sinful people, and that we're unable to cope with today's problems of life and death and eternity. Jesus is the only one that can help you cope with those things. People don't have Jesus try to cope with life, death, and eternity, and what happens? We get all messed up with things. We do it our own way. Frank Sinatra's song, I did it my way. Yeah. It's not the way to do it. We do it his way, and it makes a whole lot of sense at that point. We can do that, and then when we do that, we start seeing the Father's love through him. We start feeling and understanding that our guilt is taken away. So often, our head knowledge says, yeah, we've been forgiven for our sins. But do you ever feel guilty about them? We do that, don't we? We understand we're forgiven for our sins, but yet I feel so bad about them. I just feel guilty about it. But the good news is that Jesus washes away the guilt as well. You know, every time we say, I'm sorry, I back in 1972, I kicked that little poodle. Well, what other dog? Not a German short hair. Anyway, I'm sorry to all the poodle lovers out there. Anyway, but we say, I forgot, forgive me about it. And he's going, what? No, it's gone. I've washed that away. And we need to get that. As we grow in Him, we grow in His love, we grow in understanding of Him, we understand that, that's gone. That's washed away. That's what grace is all about. And we understand, we can accept the fact that He was our substitute. Lester, He was your substitute. Because you couldn't do it. Daryl, yours, we couldn't do it on ourselves. And we understand that He was our substitute and became the penalty for Tim Miller's sin. And that we've been redeemed and we're a member of the family of God. And that is great news. When Kathy and I moved up here with the kids, we had no family up here, biologically. But guess what? We got a family up here. And that is really good news. Yeah. We got more than our biological family. We got a family. And when the believers come together, we're having a family reunion. And that is so cool. Tonight, this is the best smelling church in West Mackinac County. Right? Yeah, it is. It's smelling good. And we're going to have a reunion today. And we're going to eat. And we're going to have fun and chuckle. And we're going to a meeting. Yeah. Anyway. But we're going to have a reunion, and when we get to glory, guess what? The family gets bigger, and the reunion is bigger. We'll sit at the banquet table, people from every tribe, tongue, and nation, and people you didn't know was family, and you're going to get to see them in one day. And we get to understand that when we say yes to Jesus, when we accept Him. In a nutshell, saying yes to Jesus is the only smart thing that a smart person would do when they hear the gospel message. It's the gospel message. It's that only, you hear the message, you got to say, yeah, that makes sense. I need to do that. But, there is the other side. I said the other side, and obviously the other option is you can say no to Jesus. You can openly, bluntly reject Him. But let me just say this. Regardless of what your beliefs are on predestination, which is a $40 word that people in the church like to argue about. Regardless of what the beliefs are, the fact is people still have free will. Jesus isn't going to twist your arm. He's not going to bend you to chicken wings. Say, come on. No, we don't have any of that. He's not going to have to go through a lot of things. People can still refuse God. And even though Jesus Christ died for everybody in the world, the Bible tells us that He's not willing that any should perish, but everyone should come to eternal life. He didn't send His Son to condemn the world, but He sent His Son into the world to save the world, didn't He? And so even though He died for everyone, not everybody is going to be saved. That's just the bottom line on that one. That's the hard truth. Wide is the road that leads to destruction. Jesus said, narrow is the path that leads to eternal life. So the Bible tells us there are going to be more people dying and going to hell than there will be into eternity in heaven, which is pretty sobering for me. But only people who take Jesus Christ as Savior can enter into the joy that God has made possible for His redeemed people. Only those. And people, there's no third option. So I just can't say, well, you've got another option over here. Can't do that. There's no third option. There's no difference between rejecting Jesus and putting off the decision. There's no difference. Both are dangerous and both are fatal to your spiritual destiny. Understand that. Know that the gospel message of Jesus Christ is a very, very dangerous thing. It's a dangerous thing. It's one of the things that we humans take lightly. I'll deal with it later. I don't have to deal with that right now. I'll deal with it later. what happens? Life is snuffed here on earth. And then a life is required of us, isn't it? Pilate may have sat on the judgment seat that one day, but the one he was judging is sitting on the ultimate judgment seat and is judging Pilate. That's a sobering thought, isn't it? We're talking about the tables turned. It is a dangerous thing, the gospel. When it's preached, it has two effects. Either the person takes Jesus Christ as Savior and Lord of their life, or they refuse to accept Jesus, and it drives them further away from salvation. Now, you might say, and I've had people argue this to me, Tim, what's the big deal? You know, that's been over 2,000 years. The Bible's just an old book. You know, the story's old, Tim. You know, it's old. We've come a long way in our culture and our society. We don't, we don't have to deal with that stuff. You ever heard those types of things? What's it really matter? Let me just say this. History proves this out. History proves that it does matter. It matters a lot. First of all, it matters in life today. As you're living, as you're sitting here right now, it matters in life today. Do you know the followers of Jesus are the most happy people in the world? By the way, if you're a follower of Jesus and you're perpetually grumpy, don't tell anybody you're a follower of Jesus. You're making it hard on the rest of us, okay? No. Followers of Jesus, the people in China, in other countries that are persecuted, they are happy people. And other people can't understand that. What did Jesus say in his Beatitudes? Blessed are they, blessed are those, blessed are they. Blessed there means happy. Happy, doesn't it? We should be happy. The followers of Jesus are doing more to improve this world. Christians are doing more to improve the world than tear it apart. There are other religions that are tearing things down. Now, doesn't it make sense that, this is trying to do good and this is trying to tear apart? What kind of warped mind takes you to believing this way versus this way? One is glorifying and edifying and good and beautiful and right, and the other is just really does not work in my sight, in my mental gymnastics. I can't wrap my head around that. You know, if there's no such thing as life beyond here, earth, it would still be the best move to become a Christian, to be a follower of Jesus, because of the joy that comes when you're in the will of God. Even if heaven didn't exist, and it does, even if it didn't, being in the will of God here today is still so much better. Secondly, it matters not just in here today, but also in death with what we do with Jesus. Daniel Webster once was asked what his greatest thought he ever had was. Danny Webster, he wrote the dictionary? Yeah, I don't know if he really wrote it, but it's called after him. He answered what his greatest thought was. He answered with great emotion. He said, my personal responsibility to God. Daniel Webster said his greatest thought was his personal responsibility to God. He could have said anything else. But his personal responsibility to God was his greatest thought. None of us. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to have Jerry Brown's memorial service on May the 10th. And I'll be saying this there. I'm sure I usually do. Not because it's nothing else to say, but because it's important. None of us are ever going to escape death. Michael Jackson couldn't do it. Howard Hughes couldn't do it. People with money can't do it. None of us are going to. It's just a fact. Death and taxes. Right? That's what you're going to get. So that's the old saying. None of us are going to stay. People, you got to understand that salvation through Jesus is more than fire insurance. Although if that's what you like to call it, that's fine, I guess. But to be able to come to death and to accept the fact of death calmly and with the assurance of what's on the other side, man, that is a goal that I think everybody should have. To know that, what? No matter what man does to me, I got glory waiting. That is just a precious, precious mindset to have. To have Jesus as personal Savior and Lord And the proof of the Spirit in us brings us a peace and a calm, a peace that the world doesn't give you, and understand a peace that the world can't take away. I read stories about martyrs, people persecuted all over the world, and in the midst of that, there's this peace they have. It just amazes me. It's not a peace that anybody can say, there, it'll be okay. It's not it. It's a peace that passes all understanding. That's just amazing to me. The third reason why our decision in Jesus matters so much is that we're going to spend eternity somewhere. We are. The Bible doesn't give us three possibilities, only two. The heaven that's prepared for people who say yes to Jesus and are followers of Jesus and love Jesus. And then there's hell for the devil and his followers. Just that simple. Eternity is forever. Throughout the endless ages, we'll earn the results, we'll live out the results of our decision about Jesus and our decision to way of life. That will follow us through eternity. So it matters a lot what we do with Jesus. It absolutely does. So my next question is, so who's going to answer the question? Well, common sense says that if we ask the question, we need an answer. Reminds me of a story of Ronald Reagan. He's told on himself when he was a young teenager. He needed a new pair of boots. So he went to the shoe cobbler. Back then, you didn't go to Walmart or you didn't go to the Red Wing store. You went to a shoe cobbler and had your boots made because that's the only way you could get boots. So he went to the shoe cobbler. Shoe cobbler said, do you want square toes or do you want pointed toes? He goes, I don't care. I just need a new pair of boots. So he came back to get his boots. When he got his boots, he's looking them over, and one foot had a square toe, and the other foot had a pointed toe. And he said, the shoe cobbler said, what's with this? I can't wear these boots like this. And the shoe cobbler said, well, you said you didn't care. Ever since that day, Ronald Reagan, from that day on, said this: if you don't make a decision about things that matter the most to you, somebody else is going to make them for you. It's true. The same thing is true with our spiritual destiny. If you don't make a decision about the thing that matters the most, and there's nothing in this world that matters more than your spiritual destiny, the judge, one day will make that decision for you. That's just how it is. Yeah, we think that here on earth we can make decisions and we can do those things. You know, no one else on earth can make this decision for us, by the way, either. I know there's a lot of people that say that think that maybe I'd like to make that decision for my spouse, my husband, or my wife make a decision for her husband, or for our children, we'd like to make that decision for our children. I'm sure there's children that say, I'd like to make that decision. I haven't talked to me. I'd like to make that decision for my parent. I'd like to make that decision for this friend of mine because I want them in heaven with me. I'd like to make that decision for them, but you know what? You can't do it. I had a really, really good friend who grew up from kindergarten up through high school. Best man at my wedding. I got my life right with Jesus Christ, and I wanted him to do that because I knew how he was raised. He knew the difference. And I wanted to do everything, nearly beat him into a submission, but I can't really do that. He's a friend of mine, so, I can't anyway, huh? I couldn't do that. But I did everything, and I agonized over it. He never said yes to Jesus. I finally had to come to the understanding that I did what I could, and I have to leave the rest up to the Holy Spirit to do his job. Sometimes we get in the way of the Holy Spirit. We have to give things over and say, Holy Spirit, it's yours. I still don't know where he's at in his life. Sometimes it gnaws at me. Sometimes it bothers me a lot to know that. See, the question is a personal question because no one else can answer it. Joshua is speaking in front of the children of Israel. Millions of people he's speaking in front of. And he retells the story of God's provision and God's punishment of the children of Israel. And he gets to this part where he finally tells the millions of people this: choose for yourselves this day whom you will serve. Notice he says, choose for yourselves as a whole group this day. Then he goes, who you will serve. It's important to understand that basically he's saying that the decision is a personal decision. It is not a group decision. It's not a vote. It's a personal. Everybody has to decide for him or herself. Remember that lady in the plow truck? The moral of that story is this. Before we let others lead us into a decision, it's important to know where they're going. Before you let somebody lead you, you need to know where they're going. Who's leading you? The world, the culture, the Word of God? Who's leading you and where are you going? Uncertainty is a very good reason for coming to Jesus because we don't know. But there's other reasons. The longer we put off a decision for Jesus Christ, the harder it is. Pharaoh's heart was hardened every time he rejected God's will in the days of Moses. And like that, in the same way, we risk our ability to make a decision for the future. You know what I mean by this? What I'm talking about here is Jeff is a salesman. He's going to sell me something. I really don't want it, but I don't want to tell him no, and I'm agonized. Anybody agonize over no? Yeah. So finally I say, no, I don't want that. He comes to me next week. He wants to sell me something. A Kirby vacuum cleaner. Sorry, Bill. Eureka. He's a door-to-door salesman. Bill's arch nemesis. No. Anyway, he wants to sell me something. Shackley. and so I said, Jeff, I told you no. The next time he comes to me, no. It gets easier all the time, and that's how it is. When we said put off saying make a decision for Jesus Christ, it's time to make that decision again. It's a lot easier to say no. It's a lot easier to put it off. And the further away we get from it, the easier it gets. You see, you catching me? Are we tracking on this? It gets easier and easier. So the decision is one that needs to be made, and you can't be put off. It can't be put off. But the greatest reason for coming to Christ now is that the sooner we become followers of Jesus, the sooner we start enjoying the fruit of living as a follower of Jesus. We start enjoying the blessings. You know, the greatest reason, it's not fire insurance that we go to Jesus because we're afraid of hell. I am. I don't like that. But I come to Jesus because of the realization of what he did for me. That he loves me a lot. And if there's nobody else on this earth, he would have done the same thing for me. He would have done the same thing for you. And because I know he loves me so much, I want to serve him and do the best I can for him. That's the reason I want to come to Jesus. And honestly, I think that's the best reason. I'm not going to push anybody into heaven. I'm not going to pull anybody into heaven. I just hope we can love a lot of people into heaven. That's what Jesus Christ does. When he went to that cross, and we remember that last week, and we celebrated that resurrection. Yeah. You know, we're not only saved from hell, but we're saved to a spiritual relationship with Jesus that starts here in this life and continues on forever. So whatever the reason we have, we should act on it and decide today. It's a safe, when you come to the fork in the road, it's a safe fork to take. The one that will pay the greatest spiritual dividends for all eternity. Now, I've said this talked a lot about coming to Jesus. But maybe you've got to come to Jesus in a different way. And by that I mean, I'm tired of playing the games. You may be saved, but he may be your Savior, but not Lord. Maybe that's something. But whatever it is, you need to come face to face with the living God, face to face with his message. God has revealed himself in Jesus Christ throughout history, but his revelation is beyond history. Jesus is timeless. The same one who was cuddled by his mother as a baby, who walked through the streets of Nazareth in Galilee, who climbed the rocky ledges in Judea, who was nailed to a cross and rose from the dead in that tomb we remembered last week, is the Jesus who confronts us today and demands a decision. His voice is tender. His voice is caring. It's attractive. But at the same time, demands our allegiance. It's stern. It's challenging. What are you going to do? To this point in your life, what have you done with him so far? What will you do with him tomorrow? Your greatest issues will be decided by the answer you give to the call. Absolutely. So people, it's your turn. It's your turn. Father God,